Hey everybody, have you ever kind of worried a little bit about where your food's going to come from right now?
How many of you are wondering today where you're going to get meat for your family? Hi, I am Selena Sorensen, and this is Jared.
I'm Jared Sorensen. We're the parents to 9 children, live on a ranch in northeastern Nevada, and we are striving to ranch regeneratively.
Beautiful ranch, and we love the springtime. It's been amazing. So regenerative, what does that mean? We are trying to get things back to the way that they should be. So regenerate life in the soil, life on top of the soil, and health and well-being for the livestock and for ourselves. We're very passionate about it, as well as preserving our freedoms.
We're going to talk a little bit about the current food crisis. We feel very blessed to live where we do. We're isolated from many of the effects of the coronavirus, but we're not insulated completely from it. And so we want to talk about why this is happening. You know, why is it that there's this interesting anomaly going on whereby there is a food shortage in the supermarkets and a food surplus on farms and ranches? Why is it that vegetable crops are being destroyed, that potatoes are going to waste and onions are being composted, and now livestock are being destroyed?
Being euthanized because there's no place to go with them when there's no processing happening, and there's no place to go once they are processed, supposedly because the restaurants being closed down. But we know that everybody is still eating, and that there would be a good use for that food on the shelves in the store. I was in Costco today and saw empty shelves, and there was a limit of how much food that you could buy. You could only buy 3 items, whether it was beef, pork, or chicken. But those are the animals that are being euthanized right now.
So what's going on with that? We need to step back and we need to realize that the COVID-19 did not create the food problem. It just exposed the underlying weaknesses that were in this food system that we've adopted here in America and largely throughout the world. So we have to back up several decades to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, whereby we found that we could utilize petroleum to gas and oil to be able to transport goods long distances across the country. And then with the invention of refrigeration, that allowed for us to be able to transport meat. Prior to that, food was largely produced and processed and consumed in a very small geographical area. With the change that brought out, it increased some of the efficiencies, but we're beginning to see the weaknesses within that model. And this on-demand, just-in-time supply replenishing system doesn't work. If there's one little hiccup or one little bubble, or a big bubble like we're currently facing, then we find that the grocery store shelves are depleted and they're not able to be replenished in time.
So there's a disconnect. So the centralization and the efficiency has now failed us. And so we thought that, we can do things so much more effective and we can have so much more production, but there's no way to redirect where the food was going. The food that was going to the restaurants and now could be on the shelves in the store, but there's that disconnect, and the systems aren't in place for that because of largely that centralization. And so now it can't just be flipped over to work for a different model in a different way.
Yep. So we've got to ask. So, why did this happen? What do we need to learn from it? And especially as consumers, like we're all consumers of food, what do we need to do about it, right? So maybe we can go there and talk about some of the solutions that we see. Hopefully we've clearly identified what the problem really is. Just one other item to bring up along with that is it's important to realize that the something called country of origin labeling, which was repealed a couple of years ago, which now states that if a product is minimally processed in the United States, it carries the USDA stamp or label. That does not mean that the product was born and raised and produced in the United States. It just means that it was minimally processed. So if we really want to make a difference, understand and ask for food that was produced here in the United States. Okay, so
that's country of origin labeling. We need to understand what's happening there. We are killing our own animals, but we are still importing animals from other countries due to whatever reasons, contracts or trying to sustain that trade, those relationships. So who knows all the reasons, but either way, we are sabotaging ourselves in the meantime. Another thing that to think about with this is even in the United States, the miles that our food travels before it ends up on our plate. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so with this centralized model, transportation became key, and now it's estimated that on average, food from the place that it's produced to the place by the time it gets on your plate, those food miles equate up to about 1,500 miles. So there's a lot of expense in transportation costs that goes into the food that is produced. And realizing with all that expense, those in the middle are the ones who are largely profiting, and those who are producing are at a subsistence level largely, meaning the farmers and the ranchers that are producing the product, they're only seeing somewhere around 20 cents for every dollar. 20% of what you pay in the grocery store, what we all pay in the grocery store, goes back to the farmer and the rancher where the food is produced. So that too needs to change. But let's move into what the solutions are that we see.
And just to clarify, I want very clear that we're in this situation because processing plants were shut down. The systems were stopped. There's still some processing plants that are open, but there's huge gaps. Systems were stopped because of the sickness and the worry of spreading that, right? And
well,
now those
employees were actually sick. It was a health risk to be able to go to work, and so perhaps it was the right thing to close down those businesses. But if you look at it, it's basically a huge factory processing facility for these animals that they go through. How smart, how safe, how sustainable is that to rely on a few centralized plants to produce our protein?
It's also important to recognize that now those same plants are being told to reopen just to slaughter. So they couldn't be open to process foods, but now they can be open just to slaughter the cattle to get rid of the supposed excess. But now restaurants are reopening, so we want you guys just to kind of think about what's going to happen. We are slaughtering what seemingly was excess, which really isn't, because we're already at a shortage on the grocery store. And now that restaurants are reopening, where is the supply going to come from? And that leads to food shortages. So just to be very clear about what the problem is, but there are things that we can do, and we are hopeful, and we are excited for the adjustments that we can make, and that we can come back to our roots and come back to the way that it was, and have this wake-up call. It's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, so what can we do, the general public? Let's learn from the mistakes that we may have made. Let's learn from the failures. Let's learn from a faulty system, and as we begin to recreate this system, rather than just propping up a system that's already broken and failing, we believe that there needs to be a food revolution. we need to maybe not overnight, right? We can't do that. That's not smart, sustainable, or wise. But phase out the centralized system, move back to a more local system. So let's gear towards that. How does that translate to you as a consumer, right? You may not have the power to enact that change. What you can do, one thing that we have seen being done, is to reach out to farmers and ranchers, ask them what they have that is in surplus, and they may not be prepared to direct market. Some of us are. Our company direct markets. Others may not.
Ranchers and farmers, that's why they ranch and farm. That is not their personality to interact with people. They're amazing with the soil and with the animals, but that's where their love is. And so reaching out to the people and having that relationship has not been their normal.
Yep. So ask them, what do you have that's extra, or how can we help to market your product, and be that catalyst for change. We saw that recently happen with some pigs that would have been euthanized, and now they're going to feed families because of one man's vision, because of his tenacity to be able to step in. He was able to route those animals to go into people's freezers instead of into a pit, and I think that's pretty awesome. Those are the kind of things that we need to do to be able to provide food security, and to ensure that if there actually is a food shortage, which is predicted, which it's not hard to add up and figure out that there could be, that we will still have food for our families. Right? So that's number one. What's another thing, Selena?
So another thing is to grow your own food. Does that mean you need to grow all your own food? Not at all. A friend of mine and I were just talking. I started a bunch of cabbage because that's what I had a bunch of seed of. She had a bunch of tomatoes that she started because that's what she had, and we're going to swap starts. So there's things like that you can do. You can even just, say it's easy for me to grow potatoes, I'll grow a bunch of potatoes. Maybe it's easy for your neighbor to grow zucchini. They grow a bunch of zucchini, and you share. And then down the road is the rancher who's growing the beef, and man, they're busy. But believe me, it's hard to fit in garden time, and they would love to have somebody show up at their door with a box full of groceries saying, "Hey, I'll swap you for beef." We would love that, and I know there's others out there that would love that too. So by bringing this back to our communities, growing foods that we can grow, encouraging our neighbors, sharing what we know with them, and taking that responsibility back as communities, that feeding ourselves is not up to some big company, up to the government, up to the grocery stores, but is up to us to feed ourselves.
Yes, it is really up to us. We need to take personal responsibility for our own welfare and quit putting that off on other people and waiting for other people to solve our own problems. So we've talked about two things that we can do. Reach out to producers in your area. Grow your own food. Also, you can reach out to people who are already currently direct marketing.
And share your knowledge. That's something that we're wanting to do with our email list. We put out resources. We know somebody who is actually teaching a gardening class in the near future, and we're going to be sharing his information on our email list. So if you'd like to be able to have some resources like, where can I get started? What can I do? How do I do this? We're going to be putting some of those links and ideas in our emails, as well as help tips, recipes. So you can be a part of that. RubyMountainFoods.com. It's Ruby Mountain. Mountain is spelled out, and then foods with an S. .com, RubyMountainFoods.com. And once you're on our website, there'll be a little mailbox pop up, and you just put in your email, and then you'll be on our list and be able to receive those same resources that we have and that we're wanting to share with you guys. But you guys can share too. You guys have knowledge, and if you know how to do something, teach somebody else how to do it too. Let's bring this home and start taking responsibility together and not waiting for the government to tell us what to do, because that is not working.
Yeah, we've seen the results of that. So it's time for a change. It doesn't take the majority of the people to enact change. If there are just a few who are willing to catch the vision that the food system is broken, that there is an alternative, that alternative exists at a small scale, but it can be grown. It's going to take some effort, and if we work together on that, together meaning those who have the knowledge and those who need the product, it can be a win-win. It can be a symbiotic and a very profitable and a very secure and safe venture for all of us.
So we have options, and we are, putting this information out there. Mostly we want to help people, but we also see that part of that is filling your freezer with beef if that is something that you need. Now, is that hoarding? If you have a freezer full of beef, you want to talk a little bit about hoarding?
Yeah, so no, that is not hoarding. There's a big difference between preparation and panic, and hoarding and panic buying. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being prepared. And so there is food out there right now. Now is the time that we invite you to learn what can be stored. Frozen beef is one thing that we offer. It can go in your freezer. It can stay for over a year in the freezer and be just fine.
We offer, bulk prices, and so it's really an amazing deal, especially compared to what's out there right now. And so we're offering that is you can get yours ordered to make sure that you have your animal ready to go in the October. So we'll be doing deliveries or shipping in October. But it's good to do that ahead of time so that we make sure that we have our numbers. We will be having ground available starting the middle of June, so you can get bulk orders of ground. And we're doing about 6.5 pound right now on the ground meat. So that's a great opportunity to
So $6.50 a pound.
Yeah, what did I say?
Yeah. just to clarify what 6.5 meant. Okay, so those are just some options that we provide. But by all means, this is an opportunity to be able to step back and learn from what's happened. Our whole world has been disrupted. There are things that we can let go of. There are new things that we can embrace. We're at a pivot point where we can decide which way do we want to go. Do we want to go towards socialism, towards other people dictating to us what we will eat, what we will do, or do we want to move towards a freedom whereby we choose?
You know how it is. I've seen so many infomercials about, this new gadget that's going to give you all this freedom in your kitchen. It's going to be so easy and just make life wonderful. And I've got caught up in that and bought a few of them myself. And after getting them, I find it frustrating. I don't know how they work. There's lots of parts. I end up washing extra things, or I have to keep track of extra things. And I think, I kind of just like my knife and my cutting board. And that's how I do most of my food prep. And so I find myself going back to that. And sometimes that's, just the old ways are the best ways. When food was not centralized, and the local communities provided each other with food, and that was more sustainable. And it's great to have all these different types of foods and to share great foods throughout the world. I love trying different foods and having so many different types at our fingertips. But I also like knowing better that I get to choose if I'm going to buy food and how much and when, and not have somebody tell me that. So I want that security as well.
Hopefully you've been able to learn a few things that you can do to be able to be prepared. And that's our challenge to you, that if it's something from this video or something that spoke to your heart, that you take action on it. Don't delay. Don't act out of fear or panic, but out of purpose. Yeah. And realizing that we all need to eat. Food is the basis of life, and food and freedom are integrally connected. That's our challenge to you. Thanks for listening to the video. We hope that you'll reach out to us, jump on our email list. We'll stay in contact. We'll promise to provide meaningful information along these lines of how you can continue to feed your family nourishing food, not just empty calories, but good food that actually promotes health.
Okay. All right. So, love is so powerful. Love is more powerful than fear. And that's what we want to send out in everything that we do. Our videos, our emails, our product is filled with love for freedom, love for the people. And so, you guys share love and let's conquer this with love.
Bye, guys.